because you're talking about education there. I mean, that was one area that didn't see any increases in funding, though it remained flat. It didn't go down. Isn't that the case?
That is the case.
Higher education went down 5% in this session.
And higher education had not been funded for the last 4 years.
Representative Grill.
One thing, though, we have to remember all the revenue this brings into our state that we don't already have. So you say you give out $1 million, you get $38 million back. That money would go to teachers. That would go to raising the salaries. That would go to education. And so that's kind of where I differ, I guess, from the senator on that point. These other states around us are really making a concerted effort, that Kansas is a state, to go after these businesses, to create jobs, to make their laws more equitable for businesses. And that's something I support. And I think if you're going to bring in that revenue, it's new money, it's new jobs, it's new economic development.
Senator Bartley, you wanted to have a rebuttal on that?
I hear that argument for virtually everything. Give us $1 of state revenue and we'll give you $30 of tax revenue. And if that were the case, we wouldn't have any budget problems at all. The reality is the $1 million, that's hard cold cash that we won't be spending on education.
Now, before heading out of town, lawmakers ensured Missouri would be the first in the nation to decide whether a state could opt out of national health care reform. Lawmakers approving putting the issue on the ballot for you to decide in August. The question, should Missouri residents be required to carry health insurance and be penalized for failing to do so? Now, some would say, given all of the issues, and particularly as Senator Wilson just mentioned education, she thought that was very important that legislators deal with. Why did the legislature have time to deal with this when it was a federal issue, Representative Nolte?
I think we're talking about something that affects every person. If you're being required to purchase this health insurance, and it was done, I think, in Washington, with very little input from the American people. I think this gives the people a chance to actually weigh in on this. And quite honestly, one of the reasons that we have this problem that's so much more acute is the lack of jobs with good paying benefits. That's where we need to go back to, and that would resolve a lot of our problems.
Now, they may be coming... Sorry, Senator Wilson.
Well, I kind of disagree here. I think that this was really a backlash to the current administration. And we spent, in my opinion, far too much time trying to pass this kind of legislation as opposed to moving on with some of the other issues within our state.
Representative Grill.
This was the session of House concurrent resolutions and House joint resolutions in the House. The majority party felt that their constituents were contacting them often, and a lot of mine have too, and so we took up these issues to tell the federal government what to do, where I think we should have focused more on our own problems in Missouri. While I do support some of these resolutions, I think that it would have been better time spent working more on Missouri issues.
And even though they may come from a point of view, but when you read the newspaper, you'd see there seems to be so many people saying, "Oh, there's no chance this could ever happen. No state could get out from under what this federal law is." So, are we just wasting taxpayers' time and money with this?
I think so many people are incredibly frustrated with the federal government. That's why we did it. I'm dubious about whether it's going to actually have an impact.
Okay, finally, a quick lightning round quiz question section for you. The biggest disappointment of the 2010 session in Missouri was what, Senator Wilson? You're going to go back to education.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Absolutely. The lack of funding for the education formula.
Representative Grill.
Not remaining competitive with other states on job creation, economic development issues, and not tackling reform of tax credits in a way where we support the ones that are working.
Representative Nolte.
Obviously, job creation and encouraging businesses, we need to make sure that we provide a business-friendly environment where businesses can, in fact, flourish and create wealth.
Senator Bartle.
Tax credit reform and failure to pass a balanced budget.
And complete the sentence for me, Jason Grill. The most underreported success of the session was blank.
Was the autism insurance coverage bill, which I sponsored in the House, which had been worked on for over 3 years. It's landmark legislation. We're now the 20th state to do it, but our state law is probably one of the strongest, and it has people on the Kansas side jealous of what.
Why is that a big deal?
Because we're going to give thousands of Missouri families the ability to get insurance coverage for autism diagnosis and autism treatment.
And they weren't getting that before?
They weren't. They did not cover these treatments. And we have a COLA in our bill with cost of living adjustment, which is great. It was a great compromise between the House and the Senate. It was true bipartisanship in action. The governor supports it. And I think we're going to be having a bill signing here in the next few weeks, which I'm excited about.
Senator Wilson, the biggest underreported success of the session was what?
The additional $600,000 that was put into the early childhood education program and programs for veterans.
Even though they cut the Parents as Teachers programs by more than 50%. Senator
Right.
Bartle?
How well the legislature and the governor work together, and how well Republicans and Democrats work together. You don't hear that or read about that in the paper, hear about that in the media, and yet the level of bipartisanship, in my estimation, was at an all-time high in my 12 years in the legislature.
Is that just Senator Bartle's estimation, though, Representative Grill, or did you feel the same way?
I feel like I'm pretty bipartisan. Most of the Republicans are working with me. I think it is true. I think there are instances where everyone gets a little upset down there, and you don't have bipartisanship. But I feel for the most part, if you treat people like you want to be treated in Jeff City, they'll do the same.
The most underreported success of the session for you, Representative Nelty, was what?
Last year, I was the co-chairman of the Energy Futures Committee, a joint committee between House and Senate. And I think the progress that we're making towards coming to grips with alternative energy sources for the state. And for me, one of the most important components of that is the possibility of modular nuclear energy. I think it holds great promise. It's existing technology, and you can't have job creation without a stable source of energy.
And that is our Legislative Week in Review. Our thanks to our Missouri Legislative... I put my teeth back in. Missouri Legislative News Reviewers, State Senator Yvonne Wilson and Missouri House Member Jerry Nelty, Senator Matt Bartle and Representative Jason Grill. I'm Nick Haines from all of us here at KCPT. Thanks for spending part of your weekend with us.